I will call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have roll call, please.
Councilmember Wallers?
Yes.
Salmi?
Yes.
Gillespie? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Hughes?
Yes. Citizen comments. If anyone would like to approach the council that's not on the agenda, may do so now. We have no public hearing tonight. We have reading and approval of minutes from January 22nd meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on January 22nd.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have the condensed version of the same minutes.
I'll move approval of the condensed version.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Carried. We have the consent agenda consisting of the audit of city bills, pay estimate number 17 for the water treatment facility from Magny Construction, January transit report, application for exempt permit from Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, raffle license report from Russ Kinship, and a gambling report from the Eagles. And I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
I will second.
Any discussion or questions, comments on any of the items?
Just a couple a couple questions basically. The restroom directly, looks like we bought water coolers for the park. Do we know what parks they're going to, or?
I believe that's out at the baseball field, and then probably Pomni Park.
Okay.
Yep.
It's time to replace them, huh?
Yeah, well, with the water that's just going through there,
Right.
we know what happens when you have hard water.
And the other question I had was, I line item 92, the USA Blue Book, 6-foot trailer mounted trash pump for $9,928.15. What is that? I guess I'm.
That's for public utilities, sewer.
Oh, so it's an actual physical trailer?
Yeah, it's a trailer mounted pump that they
Okay.
can
I saw
utilize.
USA Blue Book and I thought, oh, I see, that must have went online and bought it.
Yep. I guess.
Yeah, we have trailer mounted pumps that we use for various locations that we have to go pump
Okay,
during rainstorms and stuff like that.
okay. I guess that explains it. Yeah, that's all I have.
Just had a comment on the Magny construction. You look at the numbers there, we're kind of winding her down.
She's getting there.
Yeah,
We're starting to do finish work.
good deal. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Opposed? Carried. Ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution authorizing execution of an amended and restated development agreement.
So this is for legacy living. Nick made it out from the cities and
Right.
from Ellers, so he's got the next two items. This one's for legacy living. So I'll turn it.
Again, I'm with Authorized Associates. It's good to see you all this evening. Before you is a resolution, it's actually two separate items, two agreements. One, an amendment to a agreement that you made with Legacy Living a few years ago when they first brought that project to the city of Morris. Provided a TIF note in the amount of $525,000 that's going to be paid over the next next 25 years from the TIF district that was created to support repurposing of that former school site. This amendment essentially is to isolate those payments to the TIF note to the original legacy units that they did bring on board, as they are proposing an expansion now that they're underway with for 10 additional units. And so they made a request to the city of Morris to increase the amount of TIF assistance in order to help finance that expansion of those additional 10 units. And so this amendment essentially allows for that, because the original language within the agreement pledged all TIF generated from that piece of property towards that original note amount and didn't leave room to make a payment on any additional or separate financing. And so the action is really twofold. One is to amend that existing agreement to kind of isolate those payments to the original units that they did construct. And then there is a second agreement that you will also consider this evening, whether to provide additional assistance, an additional $50,000 of tax increment financing assistance, which is payable solely from the TIF generated from those 10 units by themselves. It's a little bit tricky in that way, but this is sort of a necessary legal amendment in order to free up that capacity and to make payments to provide for the expansion. We have done some projections in talking with the assessor on the proposed value of those 10 units that would come on board. It does allow for an additional $50,000 of capacity within the TIF district. Now, that does leave you 20% of those future TIF collections to use towards paying off bonds that were issued to help with the demolition of that old school building. So this will actually increase the amount of revenue that you have coming in to make those bond payments on whole, and then the other 80% will go to help finance this expansion that they're proposing. We do anticipate that the cash flow projected from the tax increment district will be able to handle both of these things, but it will take the full life of that district out. So it's got another 24 years remaining in addition to this year, and so it will take that full amount of time in order to pay off the notes and then provide again that 20% for debt service on your existing bonds. They are investing about $1 million to facilitate that expansion. So that is a cost that they're incurring today. And essentially, just like your other prior TIF agreements, once they actually complete that expansion, then you will authorize the execution of a TIF note for $50,000 to reimburse about $50,000 of that $1 million investment that they're making in your community. That said, I know that there's kind of a lot to go over, so I'll be happy to address any questions that the council has, but it is in keeping with the original agreement that you do have in place, and certainly will help benefit the community by bringing an additional expansion to that facility. And they will designate two of those units, two of the 10 units, to be set aside for affordable income individuals. So that said, happy to address any of your questions.
That setting those aside, that's kind of a part of the TIF that they need to do that, correct? Is that correct?
It's part of the agreement. So the agreement that is before you this evening requires that, yes, that they'll go ahead and do that. And that will help keep, there's some money that was pooled from a housing district that you had closed down,
yep,
or actually didn't have use for those pooled funds. So that will be in keeping with that, allow you to point that you are investing in affordable housing in the use of those funds to clean up the site.
Great, great. And I think you answered my next question. This will kind of mirror the same length of time as the original agreement?
It's under the same amount of time. The TIF district is already established. It's already in place. It's TIF District 15, so it's already going. There are multiple properties on that site that are contributing into your total TIF collections. This agreement is limited to the duration of that TIF district, so there's no requirement for any outside source of funding. So any general tax levy dollars, any other revenue in the city is not pledged to only the TIF that gets created from the expansion that you are going to utilize to pay off that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Does that limit in any way the future other properties when they develop at all? Will there be impact on that?
So part of the reason why we are amending the existing agreement is to isolate the potential TIF payments to the actual properties that are involved in this agreement. So it's just the parcel
Okay.
that property sits on today.
Okay.
And then even further, we've got two separate notes. The original note, which is tied to the original units, and now a supplemental TIF note, if you will, for $50,000 that is going to be paid just from the expanded units.
Okay. Good. That answers my question.
So backing up, the whole area, that whole lot was TIF, right? So
It's all-
anybody building on there it's all in, okay. So then this is just to amend the addition. So anybody else building on there, would they have to do the same thing?
So there are, I don't know offhand the number of parcels that were created on that single lot
Right.
that originally stood, but there are multiple, 6 or 7 parcels at least. The agreement here isolates just the taxes generated from this parcel, so not the entire TIF district, just the one parcel. So if another entity comes forward and wants to build on a vacant parcel, it will be up for your consideration whether or not you want to utilize the tax increment generated from that property and help finance that project, or utilize that revenue for a different purpose, perhaps to accelerate payments on your bonds, or invest in, further redeveloping that site. But it would be up to your discretion at that time. This agreement and all other agreements that you have for properties within the TIF district isolate just the revenue from those particular parcels and not the entire property within the TIF district.
Right, okay.
But the amount of TIF money available down the road, any of the other properties on that are based on the allowable expenses for what the project will be on that land. It's not a cap of a certain dollar amount for the entire property, correct?
There's no cap on the entire property, but each one of these agreements does specify a specific capped amount and a time frame.
Right.
So they do limit. It's not an open-ended agreement, if you will. It's in this instance a fixed dollar amount, $50,000 TIF note, that if it gets paid faster than the full 24 years that are left in the TIF district, then it gets paid faster.
But I was going back to the other undeveloped property. I think it was part of Kevin's
Yeah.
question originally was that by doing this, we're not limiting development on some other undeveloped property because the amount of TIF is based on the allowable expense on the project that'll go into the new construction of some other project, correct?
You are retaining the capacity to use it to help that project when it comes forward.
Thank you.
It would be up to you at that time whether or not you want, or the council at that time, whether or not they want to do that at all.
But it still needs to be all the allowable expenses per the TIF funding requirements.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could have development on there that doesn't need TIF,
Right.
and then, but it's still gonna generate TIF.
Correct.
So then we would get that TIF, and then we'd use it to pay off the bonds
Pay that.
faster. But anybody that's gonna do a development in a TIF district is probably gonna know and understand that they're gonna wanna use TIF. The interesting thing about this is, it's not necessarily just adding 10 more rooms to Legacy Living. This is gonna be a memory care unit. So it's gonna be a separate place that they can, and there's a need. I mean, that's one of the things that Pete Warren has talked about was there's a real need for memory care. And there's not a lot of memory care that's available. So that's one of the reasons why they wanted to do it. And they talked about it when we first started talking about them coming onto the property. So they finally got around to doing it.
Do you know if they're at capacity in the,
I think they're pretty close from what I understand.
My understanding is that they are.
they are? Wow, that's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, they're pretty happy. I mean, that's the question I ask them is, how you doing? Yeah, we're doing good. So it did what they said it was gonna do. And they think this will fill up very fast.
Sure.
I think their main concern, like anyone else in the area, is finding the help
Right.
to work in
Mhm.
the facilities. I mean, it's anyone that has employment or jobs, they're trying to find somebody to fill them, and that's a problem in the whole area, so.
Right, right. Cool. Any other questions of Nick? Okay, thank you, Nick.
I'll move on a resolution authorizing the execution of the amended and restated development agreement. That would be the first one, right?
I will second that.
Any further discussion on this resolution? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Colby,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Gullickson. Yes. Mayor Heath.
Yes. And then we have the resolution authorizing, let's see. Okay, that was the amendment, and now it's the authorizing execution of a development agreement, correct? Yeah. I will move approval of the resolution authorizing the execution of a development agreement.
Second.
Any further discussion on that one? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Gullickson. Yes. Waller,
Yes.
Colby,
Yes.
Mayor Heath.
Yes. Okay. Then we have a resolution accepting a bid for a 2019 Geo Capital note for a fire truck. And that was the information that was at your place.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome back, Nick.
It's good to be back.
I'm glad you could come for both of these. It's good.
So the proposed financing was for the fire truck and the acquisition of. On behalf of the city, we put out a request for financing proposals to several local banking entities to try to solicit proposals to provide fixed rate financing over the course of the next 10 years to repay the $500,000 for the acquisition of the new fire truck. The proposed issuance will be a capital note, so you are under statute allowed to issue bonds backed by your full faith and credit to repay the bond holder, or the note holder in this case, for certain types of public safety and public works equipment. So the fire truck falls within this category. And you can pay it up to 10 years in duration. So we are maxing that out, spreading out that repayment over the full term of the 10 years. You will make semi-annual principal and interest payments over the life of this note. We did receive, this says 2 bids. We actually found that we got a third bid. We uncovered it a little bit later, but the low bid stayed the same. It was from the local branch of Bremer Bank here in town at a fixed rate of 3.35%. The second bid came in from Dakota, which was at 3.85, and then the high bid from Riverwood at 4.4% on the fixed rate. So in summary, the difference between the low bid and the high bid over the course of that 10-year repayment time frame is about $29,000 difference in interest costs. So it is quite a savings with the low proposal from Bremer. It is a fixed rate over the life of the note, and it is prepayable at any time. So should you receive additional revenues, and it makes sense within your financial management to go ahead and do that, you have that option available to you. You can call the full amount at any time throughout that 10-year term. The proposed proposal provides that closing will be anticipated for February 28th. So that's when Bremer will wire the funds into the city, provide you with the cash necessary to make that acquisition. The total principal and interest cost over the 10-year term is just over $600,000, so $603,000. So your average annual payment on this note will be $60,300 per year. Our anticipated rate that we had projected about a month ago was at 3.5%, so this beat it. We are very happy with this result, and the bid that was provided from Bremer. It does serve as a low-cost option that we think is worthy of the city and your credit, and certainly will recommend awarding to Bremer. The summary also includes the bid tabulation, and it's got a sources and uses of funds, as well as the projected payment schedule for the next 10 years. And then there is a resolution provided from your bond attorney that is at your individual places as well, that fills out that payment schedule, as well as identifying Bremer and their proposal for your consideration. So happy to address any of your questions, but we certainly do recommend awarding to Bremer.
Okay. We've known this was coming. Does anyone have any questions of Nick? Thank you, Nick.
I will move on the resolution accepting a bid for a 2018 Geo capital note for the fire truck. And do I have to put in there stated as accepting the Bremer?
I think it's in the,
It's
it's in the resolution, so you don't have to say that.
All right.
I will second.
Any further discussion? That seems like a really good rate,
It is. It's a really good
Yeah.
rate.
so.
Especially
Okay.
Strictly going through local banks. You know, if we would have went on the open market, you know, I don't know that you could have beat it on the open market.
It would have been very competitive.
Yeah, so that was.
That's
very,
great.
Very good.
Great. Okay, anything else? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Gullikson? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Selby?
Yes.
Waller?
Yes.
Here.
Yes. Great. We have a resolution authorizing fund transfer.
So I don't know if you want to explain this, Deb, or this is basically, it's housekeeping. The city has a policy that it keeps 35% of the general fund balance in the general fund, the reserve, and then anything beyond that, we can move to the capital outlay fund. And I don't know, when's the last time we moved anything out of there?
A couple of years.
So,
And actually, the 35% is a little low. We have to keep it a little higher, or we end up with negative unassigned balances in our financials, and it's kind of funky, but anyway, it was growing quite a bit, so I thought we'd move.
so over the course of time, if we have a good year, that just stays in the general fund, and then every now and then we'll move out back into the capital outlay fund. So that's what this is. It's some housekeeping.
Good.
I'll move on the resolution authorizing the fund transfer.
I will second.
Any discussion? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Waller?
Yes.
Selby?
Yes.
Gullikson? Yes. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. And we, city manager newsletter, city manager report.
I'll touch on just a couple things, and then if you got any questions, because we do want to, I think we want to get moving on to the next thing that we got going. I know the mayor indicated that he needs to get going here. Actually, one thing that isn't on the city manager newsletter, we're going to talk about it in the Morris model just for a couple seconds because of the other people that are coming in, but Otter Tail Power is working with the clean energy resource teams, and next Wednesday they're going to be in town, going door to door to the businesses downtown, and they're gonna do free energy assessments. And then Otter Tail Power has a program where they may step in and help provide some LED lights to those businesses to help reduce their energy costs. So I'll probably mention it on the radio tomorrow too, so businesses know that they're gonna be coming through. The one big item is tourism board. The Chamber of Commerce met in a retreat and decided not to fill the position of the marketing person who's leaving tomorrow, Thursday.
14th.
They're the fourth, yeah.
14th.
And so basically what's gonna happen is then we'll take on the marketing for tourism ourselves. So that relationship, the way I understand it, is gonna be ending. And the Chamber of Commerce will do Chamber of Commerce business, and then we'll take a look at how we're gonna deal with that. One of the things the Tourism Board had been talking about was trying to find a marketing company that could do marketing for us. And that's one option that we have to do that. There are some things that we can start doing right away, looking at updating the website, and I did talk to the vendors about that. But for now, I'll take over coordination of the tourism board itself, sending out agendas and minutes and things like that. So we'll have to see where we're gonna go in that direction. I actually went over to the chamber today and got the information that they had, and we're gonna get the passwords and stuff for our social media. So that is a big item that just took place. Just two other things I'll touch on. I talked before about doing an ordinance for water softeners. Actually, Ben and I sat down. Ben had to leave. He's gonna go get the pizzas for the Morris Model meeting. But Ben and I sat down and we looked at, a possible ordinance to be written to deal with water softeners. And the first thing we realized is we already have a code that deals with things going in our sewer. Sump pump's a good example of that. So really all we have to do is take that ordinance and then add some definitions in there for things like water softeners, the ability of us to take a look at properties and what they're putting sewers is already there, and then we'll put in some language that has to do with what kind of water softeners are going to be allowed. There's a very good article in the newspaper about water softeners, and if you haven't read it, I would encourage you to read it, because it really lays out all the different discussion parts about water softeners. But bottom line is we already have an ordinance. We just have to tweak it a little bit, and we'll be doing that in the next, probably not the next meeting, but the meeting after that.
Yeah, I thought that article was really, really, really good, and it came in an appropriate time to kind of open the door to talking about that and getting people
Absolutely.
continuing on to learn more.
We have a brochure that's going to be going out in the mail hopefully next week. We had to get a bulk mail permit to be able to put it out, and we finally got that permit number. And actually Ben worked on putting together the brochure. It's going to go out. It has to do with water softeners and how they work and things like that. So that process has started.
We had talked a while back about I don't know about contracting with, but working with the softener salespeople in town about actually working with us as far as consulting with the citizens with their softeners. Is this appropriate softener to use? Do we need to get rid of it? Do we
Right.
Could we upgrade or that kind of thing?
Well, and I
are
think,
we going to do that, or can we do
Yeah,
that?
I think the one piece we haven't figured out yet is how are we going to get in to verify that the softeners have been changed out the right way. And one of the first things that we can do is we can work with the softener companies, because they deal with a lot of the people that have softeners already. So their customer base is probably going to be very large. So we'll definitely work with them. And one of the things that we talked about is, everybody that owns a property that has a water softener is going to either have to have it at the new standard, that it can be adjusted with the new hardness, and it has to be adjusted. And if you don't adjust it and you get caught not adjusting it, then you're going to wind up being in violation of city ordinance. At the same time, think it's in the best interest of everybody to do it the right way.
Right.
Because there's no sense running a water softener the wrong way. And actually, there was a good discussion in the newspaper article about whether or not it's good for your pipes to do that. Because what we're hearing from MPCA and the engineers is that there is an issue with over softening your water. And I was kind of interested to see that the water softener people had never heard of that. Well, I've talked to public works directors that have indicated that, they've found pipes that started corroding, and the first thing they said was, you gotta get your water softener unhooked, because there's no reason to be doing that. And so it's nice having Ben in City Hall, because he's worked in the biology, chemistry fields, and he understands that stuff. But it's science, and that's the information that we're getting from the state. So those are things that people are gonna have to do. But water softener companies are gonna wanna make that sale, as you can see in the newspaper article. They're gonna wanna make that sale and continue providing that service to get you from 5 grains of hardness down to 0. And that's fine, we don't care. As long as people aren't putting salt. The telltale sign for us is gonna be when we start taking readings at the river, and if we're still finding chlorides coming in, then we're gonna have to go looking for where it's coming from. And we know where it comes from water softeners. That's the only way it gets into the sewer system.
As we go forward and develop this ordinance, I guess, Blaine, would it make sense to have like a transition period where, like, phasing in anybody that has an old outdated unit, are we gonna give them a period of time for them to comply? Or are we just gonna draw a line in the sand and say that's it? I guess I would support probably having more of a transitional period where people can either phase in or phase out as they replace their existing softeners. Because softeners don't last forever, and as they fail,
Well, they can't keep them if they're old. They will not be able to keep them if they're old and wait until they fail. What they'll have to do is disconnect them.
Okay.
And actually one of the things that we talked about is, I think there's a way to bypass your water softener with some of the softener systems that are out there, where you can just set it to bypass, and then it won't run it into the water softener. But yeah, they won't be able to keep an old one until it wears out. They'll just have to disconnect it, and then if they want to replace it, they can replace it.
What constitutes an old water?
So there's 2 different kinds of water softeners. One is programmable. So the one I have right now, I'm actually renting, is programmable. So I can program in 45 grains of hardness, and it will calculate how much water has to pass through the water softener before it has to recharge. The old ones have little knobs and buttons and things, and you decide, do I want it to soften once a week? Do I want it to soften twice a week? That's how it's set.
And how much salt am I gonna use to that recharge? That's also a setting.
So they've got to be the new style, and any water softeners coming out now are the new style ones. But and there's a lot of places that don't have water softeners. I know Ben said in their rental house they do not have a water softener at all, and so they're fine. Now they're going to have soft water, and that's the way it's going to work. But
The new style is a demand system, so if you use all your water, it's gonna regenerate when that water has gone through, where the old style was, it's just gonna regenerate twice a week regardless. But you got 8 people coming over and staying with you, you're gonna need a lot more water with all the things, so it'll take care of that pretty much with the demand system with the newer ones.
But I mean, how is that gonna be, how are people gonna know that? Is that part of the?
yeah, that's going to be part of the process. So we'll have to give notice to all the property owners that that's what they have to do. And then right now, what we're talking about is probably inspecting every single property. And then at the same time, we've inspected property before for sump pumps. And so we could do the same thing, have somebody go into each property and check for the water softener, make sure it was taken care of. Now, if the softener company knows that they're already taken care of, maybe we work with them and they can notify us who's got, the new on-demand water softeners. And then we don't have to get into all those houses. And then there's rental property owners that are gonna know if they have them or not. But I think we're gonna have to get in and inspect probably all the properties. Somehow we're gonna have to verify that each property has been taken care of.
But I think that's what the mayor was sort of referring to, if we could work with them
Yep.
to go around and recalibrate and then have a log for us that they have been done, if it's a fee per whoever is gonna pay it or reimbursing them, but to have some type of system with somebody that knows what they're doing, that can go in and check and recalibrate the ones that are able to be recalibrated.
Right.
Or, yes, it needs to be replaced or unhooked or bypassed, and provide us with the information.
Right.
Well, it's like Chris said in the article, in the paper, it doesn't make any sense for us as a city to spend 18 million in a water treatment facility and then have softeners that aren't compliant. Again,
Right.
we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're mandated by,
Yeah, we have to do
We're all
this.
in this together, so we just gotta partner up.
Yep.
That's the way you gotta really look at it.
Is there anything that needs to be checked on our current water meters? I mean, is there a check to them at all, I mean, we've had them for what now?
not that I know of.
4 years or something?
No, we don't have a program to go in and check them.
I mean, is there anything that we need to do? I mean, because that would be something that we could do in the same time,
Yeah, I don't think there is.
Yeah, probably not then. Cool.
Yeah,
Well, I think too, on the water softeners, just to remember, people can, you put it out there, these programmable ones, you can get them in advance and program it to 45 until you get
right,
the deal. So it's not like you have to wait until the day and then do it.
Right.
Unless you're undecided whether or not you're gonna have it, or you are going to
Right.
just say, hey, I'm okay with 5 grams.
Yes,
or-
certainly the people without water softeners, they're not gonna go out and get one,
No.
because they're gonna experience much better water. And the people with water softeners, the ones that have to turn it off, yeah, I guess I would assume that they're gonna wait until the water comes and is it good enough for me or not?
Right.
And weigh that out.
And we did talk about, if my memory serves me right, that if you get a situation where it's a financial burden to somebody to buy and comply with the new water softener, were they gonna be able to add to their taxes and prorate it out over a period of time?
They don't
They
need
don't
to
need a water
soften water
softener.
anymore. It's gonna be 5 grains of hardness.
5 to 0 they will.
That's a luxury to
Yeah,
me.
that's-
We shouldn't have
Yeah,
to
we-
provide somebody.
Okay. So that's why we're gonna,
yeah, we
Well-
wouldn't need to facilitate it for them.
okay.
Yeah, I agree, and they can work out a payment deal with the water softener
They could
people.
rent one.
Or rent, lease.
Yeah, they could rent one for $25 a month is what I pay. But it's not gonna, once we start getting soft water, I don't know how often it's gonna recharge.
It probably won't hardly ever.
Cause I'm down to a bag of salt a month. So, yeah, I think that's the position that we'll have, is that we're providing you soft water, and if you want it a little bit softer, then you'll have to figure out how to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure the water softener people have pretty good programs available for them, so.
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to touch on is, just to let you know that we're starting to work on the 2020 census. So we're actually putting together a committee that's gonna be encompassing a number of different people, because it's critical that we count every single person that lives in the county. And actually, there's some information we received where they're gonna need people to work the census. So they're gonna have some jobs available for census takers and things like that. So I'm working with Rebecca Young and Caitlin Christensen up at the county. Actually, we opted to be part of the countywide system and not do one ourselves. So they call it a complete count committee. So we're gonna try to take in members that represent all different areas, churches, schools, university, obviously, so that we can get at all the different people that are in town and make sure everybody understands it's important to get counted, because state and federal funding is based upon population in a lot of cases. That's how they divvy it out. So you'll see some stuff coming up with that. I think we're gonna try to have a booth at the expo that's gonna be coming up here. Start putting out some information.
Oh, you know what? That would be great to have a booth either from the city or in conjunction with the talking about the water softeners.
Water some.
You know,
Maybe do
I think we
that.
should. That'd be a great opportunity to
We'll see what Ben's
share
up to.
information. Ben would be great at that booth.
Yep. So that's all I have for now, unless you have any other questions.
No? Okay, we have scheduled our board of review. Looks like the county told us Monday, April 1st at 5:15 PM. I will make that a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there anything else to come before the council for this
I just
meeting?
thought maybe if we could get somehow pass the word along to Jim and his crew, I think the snow removal has went very smooth this winter. And I'd just like to give them a little formal pat on the back. I think, I've heard it from different people too, that they thought the city's done a great job this winter, so.
You know what, I totally agree with that, and if you don't agree with that, drive somewhere else, because it's crap out there, and Morris is phenomenal. I tell you, I've driven, in the last couple of weeks, I've driven in the cities, I've driven in, up in the Fargo-Moorhead area, and Morris is hands above everybody that I've driven in, so, yeah, they're doing a great job. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? Meeting adjourned. We have a Morris Model Strategic Planning Retreat meeting. Hey, what we do at the